Okay, there we go.
Hello, Shell. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello.
So I want to start by asking you to give us a little bit of a background on yourself, who you are, how you got into Nada Yoga, and a little bit on the history of it as well.
Yeah, so my name is Shell Andrea, just Shell, not Shelly. And I am a yoga educator, and I started practicing about 25 years ago and then facilitating classes about 20 years ago. I became very serious about my practice and teaching about 14 years ago and began studying with truly knowledgeable and inspiring teachers. So yoga is this system of living that allows us to tap into who we really are. It's not just about moving your body on a yoga mat. So I expanded my studies to include nada yoga practices or sound and vibration practices just because it made sense to me. I was always someone who loved to use her voice. Even as a child, I sang, I played with my voice, and I found I could hear and mimic sounds of different languages being spoken around me. So I had an ear for it. And I think that's what naturally or this is a part of what naturally brought me to these teachings. Yeah.
Okay. And in my research on this topic, I was reading up a little bit on it, and I was reading that this type of yoga comes from ancient spiritual traditions and has a lot of roots in Hindu cultures and things like that. I'm just wondering if that's correct, and if so, if you could tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So when we look at yoga from its ancient roots as a way of life, the main goal is to realize the self and to get to know who you are behind our thoughts or beyond our thoughts, personality, and the roles we play. And in fact, if it doesn't have that goal, it's not yoga. And there are many modalities that can help us sort of achieve that. Now, nada yoga, or the yoga of sound, is part of those ancient practices that originated in South Asia. We could say India, but the borders of these countries have changed so much that, I prefer to say South Asia. Other people might say different things. And it's based on the concept of nada, which means sound or vibration. And in traditional philosophy, nada is considered a fundamental aspect of the universe, with the belief that the universe and all beings within it are composed of vibrations. And then the practice can be traced back to Vedic texts or scriptures, particularly the Samaveda, which is devoted to melodies and chants. And this text is dated back to like 1200 BCE. So it's amazing how these practices from over 3,000 years ago still resonate with us today. It really shows us the importance and relevance that they have kind of passed through the test of time and millions of practitioners. So yes, it did start with sort of that. Well, Hinduism starts from something called Sanatana Dharma, and it's from that South Asian region. So prior to 3,000 years ago.
And I found that when I was doing my research, one thing that really came up was this idea of inner music and getting to a higher level of consciousness. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about what that would mean for sort of the average person living in present times.
Yeah, so there are two types of sound in Nada Yoga. What's called ahata in Sanskrit is means external sounds, and anahata, which is internal sounds. So practitioners usually or typically start with the ahata, the external sounds, and that's like external use of instruments, chanting or singing. And then as they advance, they shift their focus to anahata, the inner sounds, which are considered to be more subtle, more profound. So inner music refers to those inner vibrations or sounds that are perceived during deep meditation. And it's believed that by tuning into these subtle vibrations, one can kind of harmonize the mind and body, leading us to a state of inner peace and balance. And then the higher consciousness is really just something that's greater than us. It's greater than our own ego, but it's still us. It's our true self. So through the practice of Nada Yoga, we aim to reach these higher levels of awareness and understanding, connecting to our true self, and also that universal consciousness. And then this often involves experiencing a sense of unity with all of creation, and gaining insights into the nature of existence. And then in modern times, these concepts are often explored by incorporating contemporary tools like sound bath or singing bowls or even digital music therapy to facilitate these experiences.
It's really interesting. I've actually never heard of those things before. What are sound baths and singing bowls, did you say?
Yeah, so a singing bowl, so a crystal singing bowl or a Tibetan bowl, just to make sound. They're different instruments, and a sound bath is a practice of Nada Yoga, which uses all kinds of different instruments or sounds to help the person relax or meditate or go inward, or to really help them to concentrate on the sound.
So very much like you say about that inner peace and inner awareness, I guess beyond the sounds that we hear every day or the things that are outward. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, yes, and the ultimate goal is really to transcend the external sounds and connect with the inner sounds, the cosmic sound, so to speak, leading to this state of deep meditation and spiritual enlightenment if we're lucky.
Okay. And something that you said a while back really stood out to me when you said that it's more about moving your body on a mat. I find that a lot of yoga classes that I've taken part in and other yoga classes that I've heard of seem to be very focused on that, very focused on the physical and, what does it mean to do Warrior One and very focused on the poses. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that and how this type of yoga would be different from yoga that would be maybe more familiar to people.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is more than yoga is a whole system of living, really. And all yoga has the same goal, realizing yourself. And it's the techniques that all differ. So Nada yoga centers on the use of sound and music as a means to achieve meditation and spiritual awakening. And it emphasizes that deep listening and chanting and producing sound, whereas other yoga modalities, especially here in the West, where we live, they focus primarily on physical postures, breath control, and movement sequences, right? Just like you pointed out. And this actually isn't really typical when we consider yoga around the world. Um, yeah, so asana, meaning the physical postures, is really just one small optional component of the whole of yoga. So Nada yoga might be considered meditative, introspective, and often involving long periods of sitting or lying down in a state of deep listening and meditation rather than a focus on bodily alignment or strength and flexibility. So that would be sort of the difference.
Okay, so when you teach a class, can you kind of give me an idea? I mean, I know every class is probably different in some way, but can you kind of give me an idea of kind of how it starts and how it kind of moves through and kind of what the routine would be?
Yeah, so there, like you said, each class can be quite different. There's a variety of activities that you could focus on with sound and vibration. One of the techniques that I offer most often is called kirtan, 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 which is a call and response type of meditative chanting of sacred mantras and it can be to live music. So I play an instrument called the harmonium, and my partner plays the djembe drum to support that going inward of participants. And it can be a truly amazing and connective experience to be surrounded by all the voices in the room and joining or adding your own voice to the collective. But I also offer specialty nada programs and retreats where we go even deeper than that. So Often, first, we'll start with some specific breathing techniques to help calm the mind and prepare for the practice. And then we might go into various practices like listening to sound. So, again, like the sound bath we talked about, I might play the singing bowls, tuning forks, or other percussion instruments, and encouraging the participants to just focus on the sounds and their vibrations. Or we might even just go outside and listen deeply to what's going on outside, whether it's traffic, nature, the wind, whatever it is, to listen. Another modality is something called vocal toning, which is it's producing sustained vowel sounds or to feel the vibrations in the different parts of the body. So a significant portion of classes could be dedicated to this vocal toning. That's you making your own sounds, or to meditation where the participants listen or focus on internal sounds. And then, of course, after that, there's always sessions typically end with a bit of a relaxation phase, allowing participants to lie down and just absorb the effects of the sound work.
Sounds very relaxing and very peaceful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've read that there's lots of mental health benefits and that this can really help people with various mental health conditions or psychological difficulties. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about that and, as appropriate, maybe give some examples of how you've seen this practice really change people's lives and help people really grow in all areas of life.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Nada Yoga offers numerous mental health benefits. And the first could be stress reduction. The soothing sounds and vibrations can really help you calm your nervous system, throwing you into parasympathetic nervous system state, which is your rest and digest. And it leads to the state of relaxation and possibly peace. And then there's kind of in connection with that, there could also be anxiety relief. So the rhythmic and repetitive nature of chanting and listening to calming sounds can help ground individuals and really provide this sense of stability and security with that groundedness. Just think of how you feel when you hear your favorite song.
Okay.
And then the meditative aspects of nada, those can help you improve your mental clarity. So they're encouraging us to concentrate on that sound. And what happens when we concentrate on something, other things fall away. So focusing on sounds and vibration can enhance our ability to concentrate in daily life. And I would say that a lot of people claim that there's also emotional healing. So the vibrations from sound can release emotional blockages, leading to emotional balance and healing. So chanting mantras can also evoke feelings of love and compassion and joy, just starting to help heal our emotional wounds. Many students have expressed to me that their quality of sleep has improved after practice. So the relaxation techniques also at the end of the Nada Yoga can help regulate sleep patterns and reduce insomnia. So all of these things lead to overall improved mental health and well-being. I have a person, a student who sadly, we all have a lot of these experiences, but she had experienced severe trauma and really found solace in Nada Yoga. Through regular chanting and meditation, she was able to process and release that emotional pain, leading to significant improvement in her well-being. And I've had students who are going through major depression who told me the practice of focusing on those inner sounds provided a much needed escape from their negative thought patterns, leading them to having a more positive outlook on life. I also have a student who is dealing with a high stress job. And she shared she feels much more balanced and less reactive to stressors after our sessions together, after our kirtans specifically. And in fact, she said after one of the kirtans, she had never experienced a quiet mind until she joined a kirtan, and now she never misses one. So she actually said her performance and actual job satisfaction is so much more improved. So isn't that cool?
That's amazing. It sounds like it has many benefits, and as you say, very holistic, right? It's sounds like it has a lot of benefits. People enjoy it while they're going through it, but then also outside of class, it seems like people are able to really take it with them and help them in all aspects of life.
Well, if you think about vibration, it doesn't just stop, it just keeps going, right? So it's that ripple effect that you
Yeah,
carry it with you through after the practice.
it's really neat. And I know you said that the physical isn't maybe necessarily a big part of your practice in the way that it is in other yoga practices, but I'm wondering kind of what the physical benefits are and how that mind body connection kind of plays into the practice.
Yeah, so that goes along with the last question a little bit, right? So part of the physical benefit is the relaxation, not just feeling relaxed in our mind, but also through the body, right? The deep relaxation achieved through sound meditation can really reduce muscle tension, physical stress. And then if you think about when making sound, what do you have to do first? You have to take a breath in, right?
True.
So when we
Yep.
make a sustained sound, we have to take a deeper breath in. So we have improved breathing. We've got pranayama, which is reduced a little bit. I'm going to reduce that word right now to breath control exercises. It means there's a lot more to it, but in its most simplest reduced form, it is breath control exercises, and they are an integral part of Nada Yoga, and that improves lung capacity and enhances the oxygenation of the body and promotes better respiratory health. And then the calming effects of Nada Yoga and the long exhales, because we're making sound on the exhale, it's a longer exhale. It can help regulate heart rate, lower blood pressure, and that reduces the risk of hypertension and related cardiovascular issues. So when we put this all together, the reduction in stress levels and improved emotional health contribute also to a stronger immune response. So those are kind of the physical aspects that I would talk about. You don't need to have any physical ability in order to practice this, though, which is nice. And how do I integrate the mind body connection when teaching? I mean, I really try to encourage students to listen mindfully to each sound, noticing its effect on their body. And then when we incorporate the energy and breath exercises to synchronize the breath with the sound, it helps students feel connections between their breath and their overall physical and mental state. Like when we chant, it's so cool to recognize how do the different sounds resonate in different parts of the body. Like think of the feeling of the sound ah, and then the sound e, and how it vibrates in your body. Like how does ah feel? You feel it more in your gut, the lower chest.
Yes,
E,
I would
it
agree.
affects, yeah, and then the e affects your sinuses, the upper part of your palate, right? So through this attention, and then through reflection, we have this deeper sense, or we start to have this deeper sense of the mind body connection.
It's really neat, as you say, an experience that's very healing for the whole body. And that's interesting what you said about the immune improvement. I wouldn't have thought of that, that it could improve an immune system.
Yeah, 100%.
And I noticed that, of course, this is the yoga of sound. So it's a lot about making sound and listening to sound and those sorts of things. I'm wondering if you've ever had students who were deaf, and if so, how that worked, and if there were ways that you had to adapt the practice so that they could participate as well and also feel the benefits of this practice.
I love this question. And probably somebody who is coming with that, is deaf, is hearing impaired, can probably answer this question for you. But the essence of the practice is connecting with inner vibrations. And these can still be felt by somebody who is either deaf, hearing impaired, and often much more intensely. And the practice wouldn't need to be adapted in terms of that. So I might use instruments that produce really strong vibrations, like a large gong or a bass heavy sound bowl, which can be felt physically, even if not heard. And Practitioners can even place their hands on the bowls or other parts of their bodies on the instruments to feel the vibrations directly if they can't feel them through the floor. So we would focus on, just like other classes, we would focus on the sensations of sound vibrations in the body. So often people can still hum and create that constriction of the throat and make sound. Even if they can't hear the sound, they can still make that vibration. And so we would encourage humming or vocal toning that can create those internal vibrations that can be felt in the chest, the throat, the head. And the goal is going inward. And all humans can direct their attention inward. And we can give visual cues and explanations to help guide students.
Really neat that you said that people who are deaf sometimes feel these vibrations more. I find that really interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that.
I think when we take away one sense, the other parts of us start to compensate and get more in tune, so to speak. Pun intended, I guess.
Yes, yes, for sure. I have actually listened to a lot of binaural beats, particularly over the past year or so. I just find them really healing. I'm not sure sort of why or how they work, but I'm wondering if that's something that you incorporate at all into your practice.
Yeah, so binaural beats are, it's an auditory phenomenon created when two slightly different frequencies are played in each ear, and then it results in this perception of a third phantom beat. And this can induce various states of brainwave activity, and it promotes relaxation, focus, or deep meditation. Now, I don't use them in my classes with others, but I have used them in my personal practice. I find like using headphones and listening before bed helps me relax and fall asleep. And then some practitioners might use binaural beats during guided meditation sessions, and they'll select specific frequencies based on the desired outcome. So like the alpha waves for relaxation or theta waves for deep meditation. So some might integrate binaural beats with live or recorded sounds like the singing bowls or gongs or gentle instrumental music too. And then this can create a rich auditory experience, enhancing the meditative effects.
Yes, I definitely use them for sleep most of the time, so that would make sense that they would be a good thing for meditation to really get people to relax.
Yeah, agreed.
Is there anything else that you want people to know about Nada Yoga?
Is there anything else I want people to know? That they don't need to perform. So Nada yoga is not about performing. It's not about having to sound a particular way. So when we do our own chanting circles or we do our kirtan sessions where people are making sound, it's really not about what it sounds like. It's about the process. So my teacher always says we chant or sing or we make sound to express, not to impress.
I love that. I think that's very beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
where can people go to find out more about you and your classes?
Yeah, we've got two kirtans planned for Winnipeg and one on June 7th and the 23rd. And we head out to what's called the Om Festival in July. It's in Saskatchewan to offer kirtan and another Om meditation circle. And we have an Om circle planned Winnipeg, July 29th, which is donation based. Um, I'm excited about my next yoga self-development program, which is a 200-hour teacher training experience starting in September for 6 months, which I'll share a wide variety of yoga practices too. But you can find me on all my socials under the handle at Shell Yoga Kirtan. And you can also see what I'm up to at on my website, shellandreayoga.com.
Thank you. It was great to meet you virtually, and I really appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Bye for now.
All right, bye. Glad to help.